This is the matter of Johnny Elder and Journey Elder. We're on for a review of the motion to modify parenting time. Back on July 2nd, Mr. Elder filed a motion to modify parenting time on June 25th. Mrs. Elder filed a motion to enforce parenting time. We had a hearing on July 15th and set the matter over to review today. Mr. Johnny Elder,
Yes.
where are we at?
So in our last hearing, you told us to work together, that we need to try to agree on things for us to talk to each other. And there were several things that you had me correct in the parenting plan that I submitted. So I corrected those things and also added a few other concerns that I have, sent it over to Journey for review and to discuss. And she absolutely refuses to work with me. She said at that time she would rather go ahead and set up mediation. I told her I still don't agree to that. I tried to do that for the past 2 years and she refused. She brought this back to court. I told her we're in court. We're gonna handle it here. So I sent it to her. I wanted to discuss it and talk over the concerns that her and I both might have so that we could iron those out in the parenting plan and sign it and agree on it. She refused to work with me, so we're back here today.
Okay. Do you have that amended proposed parenting plan?
Yes, I submitted it to the court, Your Honor.
When did you submit it to the court?
I would have to look back in my emails. It was attached to the email that, I forget her name, your assistant or the clerk responded to with our court date. It was attached to that.
Okay, since our hearing on July 15th, we have a 1-page notice of hearing, a 3-page notice of hearing that was at first undelivered, and then an amended notice of hearing that got delivered. And that's it. I do not have your amended proposed parenting plan. The last one we have in the file is from July 2nd.
Okay. Yeah, it was submitted, and Journey was also CC'd in that email so that she has a copy of it. She acknowledged that she received a copy. So the court was in that same email, so I'm unsure, Your Honor.
Let me look back through the email.
Is there an email that I can forward this to? I found the attachment in my phone.
Should I also send my proposed parenting plan, Your Honor, or?
Have you put one together?
I put one together, but it's not been shown to Mr. Elder yet.
Yes. Send it to both of us.
Okay, I shall do that.
Okay. Mr. Johnny Elder, you're the petitioner. It looks like you are proposing the children reside with you as residential during the summer.
Correct.
And reside with Journey during the school year.
That's what we currently have.
And then visitation is every other weekend for the
Yes, that is.
non-residential parent.
Yep.
Journey, you're proposing that during the school year, that if both parents live within 150 miles?
Mhm.
Okay, and right now, that's your situation. You're about 85 miles apart.
Correct, Your Honor. I do believe Mr. Elder is going to be moving outside of the Kansas area soon.
Yeah, this might be easier if you're both placed under oath so that everything you tell the court is your sworn statement. So Johnny Elder, if you'd raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear and or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, subject to the penalties for perjury in the state of Kansas.
I do.
Are you currently in the state of Kansas?
I am.
Thank you. And Journey, if you'd raise your right hand. You solemnly swear and or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, subject to the penalties for perjury in the state of Kansas.
I do.
Are you currently in the state of Kansas?
I am.
Thank you. You may put your hand down. And you're proposing every other week during the school year, residing with the parent?
Every other weekend, Your Honor, within the 150 miles. That's our current setup.
So you're both proposing what you're doing right now as far as residing with Journey during the school year and residing with Johnny during the summer?
Our current order has it to where the summers aren't specified. What's currently done. But I think the main changes for that part for both of us was clarifying the summer. Mr. Elder was, I believe, requesting the children for 10 weeks out of the summer, and I would have a 2-week vacation that he could veto. And I'm requesting more of a 4-week for me, 8-week for him if he moves out of the, immediate area. When we were in here last time, I believe you had mentioned we would flip-flop kind of in the summers where the children came home on the weekends with me and spent the weeks or, every other weekend with me. And then that 2-week vacation honored.
Mr. Elder?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm trying to decipher both of what you're proposing here. You're both proposing children reside with you in the summer, with Journey during the school year.
Correct. So what we discussed last time is that my summertime would start the Friday after the kids got out of school and would end the Sunday before they go back to school, to give them a couple of days there to kind of get reacclimated with mom.
Okay.
Other than that, she would have every other weekend and then a 2-week vacation. I put in there that that by May 1st, I think that both of us should agree on that vacation time. Otherwise, my parenting time in the summer supersedes. So, if I already have plans for the summer, she doesn't get to trump that. That's my parenting.
Mr. Elder, you can't plan all 12 weeks and then say any 2-week period she asked for is trumped by your time. If she has a 2-week summer vacation with the children, you have to allocate her 2 weeks.
Right. So I guess that's my concern is, if we both have plans or something that we want to do that summer, and it just so happens to conflict with each other, then what happens?
Right? That's where you need to work with each other and plan this ahead of time so that you have that 2-week vacation set up early.
And that,
Set it up by March 1st.
Yeah, that's my concern is anytime there is conflict, there is no resolving it with her. It needs to be black and white, and that's why we're back here for a black and white parenting plan.
Okay. So it sounds like you're in agreement other than you're having problems with the 2-week summer visit.
I just want something specified so that there is no gray area on that, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, if you give notice of the 2 weeks of summer vacation by March 1st, is that sufficient time, Mr. Elder?
If I give her,
She gives you notice, if you give each other notice of anything special you're planning to do in the summer. Like, you know, just for illustration, you both decide to take the children to Disney World. And you end up overlapping with one another, but you don't want to go together. Okay, someone's going to have to change their plans. And if you make your plans by March 1st, you've got time to change those plans.
Okay. Yeah, I even put May 1st. I'd be okay with that, you know. So are you suggesting that kind of whoever notifies the other person first of their plans, that
No, I'm
should?
suggesting you both tell each other if you have a specific event, and in this case, what it is, that event is Journey's 2-week vacation in the summer with the children. She needs to give you notice by March 1st. Now, if you have something planned that same time, one of you has to modify your plans.
May I interject, Your Honor? In the newest form that was available online, I believe it's the 2023 version, they built in that contingency. That's the form that I use. So there is a section about vacation. And so it gives, I can't remember which parent, they have like the first right of vacation time by this date on even years, and then
Right, and that's what I was explaining, is that if you have a disagreement, then you've got, and we'll have to figure out who's parent A, because you're both claiming yourselves as parent A and the other is parent B, and that's a problem. But, you know, then you set it up where on even numbered years, parent A gets first choice, odd numbered years, parent B gets first choice of the 2-week summer vacation. But you want to give that notice by March 1st so that the other side can then make reasonable plans.
correct.
Okay, any disagreement with that?
No, I agree with that, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, in yours, Journey, you're building in a contingency if Mr. Elder moves more than 150 miles away?
Correct, Your Honor. Mr. Elder is active guard reserves, and so they are in 3-year slots. And so my understanding is that his time for moving will be coming probably pretty soon, because he's been in this slot for, I believe, 2 years. And they give you notice of like, if it's still the same it was when I was in, then it's that 6 months that they can move you to a new duty station.
Okay, so you're proposing that if he's moved more than 150 miles away, then he doesn't get his summers?
No, Your Honor. No, we would follow the same summer plan, but they wouldn't go during the school year on weekends.
You'd have to go to just the major holiday schedule.
Correct. And then, of course, the summer schedule. The kids wouldn't come home to me on weekends if he lived outside of that 150-mile radius.
And we're both in agreement on that, Your Honor.
Okay, so how do you plan to designate that then in your holiday schedule?
So on the second to last page, I believe in the other schedule, it does make the allowances. So if it's over that 150, but it's like more than a 4-hour, he could be sent, you know, overseas in like like Japan or Germany. So if there's a 3-day weekend that's accounted for in that holiday schedule, then the kids wouldn't be able to like fly to Germany for a 3-day weekend and make it back to school.
Right.
So, you know, that holiday schedule we would uphold as much as possible, as long as he was within a reasonable travel time.
And I don't know, Mr. Elder, where you're looking at being stationed or deployed. Okay, but 150-mile radius is a little short. For example, if he's in Topeka, or if he's in Kansas City, he's just outside 150 miles. But 150 miles is only a 2-hour drive.
Right, so the
So there's no
Kansas,
reason to cut off if it's within a reasonable driving time.
and I'm okay with expanding that. We had just had agreed on the 150 together. So I'm okay with expanding that. To my knowledge, the only two duty stations in the Kansas area are Hayes and Wichita, with his MOS, his position in the military. He's already been in Hayes. He's in Wichita now. And so I think the next closest duty station from when his last time had come up before he moved to Wichita was in Missouri, like Fort Lindenwood.
And how far a drive is that from? Um,
That I'm not sure. He should receive a list of different locations that have open slots, and then he'll rank those. But that's about as much say that he gets over a duty station. That he can rank them, but that's about it. The Army will put you where they want you.
I think the 150 is a little short. That's only a 2-hour drive.
Okay.
I think you need to start looking at modification once you hit that 4-hour plus drive.
Okay.
So maybe if you expand that to a 300-mile radius, 3 hours, or 4 hours is about 300 miles interstate, 75 miles an hour.
And this is for weekends.
That is on the, yeah, you get to a point where you have to take advantage of long weekends, and you two can work this out, and you should be able to work this out. But if you're within a reasonable drive time, you can't do every other, it's too far for every other weekend, but if you have a 3-day weekend, it might be doable. So you can look at the schedule and utilize a couple of those. Then you've got the school most likely has a fall break. The school has a Christmas break. The school has a spring break. You can utilize time during that.
Yeah, and that's what we have outlined is the holiday schedules, such as what you just said, fall break, spring break, Christmas break. We have those things outlined that I would still get that parenting time. But if you're suggesting, that we up that to maybe 400 miles, I don't know, 400 miles can equate to, I don't know, a 6-hour drive, but you split that down the middle. That's 3 hours there and 3 hours back,
It's still a 6-hour drive for the kids.
Right. And
Right.
we're doing it on a Friday that we
Yeah,
can't
no,
leave till 5 p.m.
That's too far.
And yeah, that's why we were both kind of in agreement. 150, that's almost double what we're doing right now, and the kids are doing an hour and a half. So if we doubled that to 300, the kids are doing a 3-hour car ride, or if we up it even further, then we're looking at 4 hours. So we felt like 150, that would give them about a 3-hour car ride. That was fair.
Well, yeah, 150 is about a 2-hour car ride.
Okay.
So if you go to 3, you're talking, 225.
Yeah, and I don't want to cut myself short. You see this stuff more than we do,
That, yeah, that 2-hour cutoff is awful short.
Okay.
The 3-hour drive is reasonable. You get beyond that, it gets unwieldy. And the kids are just spending too much time in the car.
Hmm.
So I would suggest you increase that to 225 or 300, depending on the age of the kids.
Yeah, I think 300 would be fair, and then after that, it could just be kind of mine and her discretion if there was a weekend that didn't work for some reason. But I'm happy to get all the time I can, so you know we can double that.
And then you build in the provision, if you get to where you can't do the every other weekend, then the trade-off for that is the fall break, a little longer at Christmas break, and the spring break. And build your time in that way. And of course, then you still have the summer.
So if I don't get my weekends, if it's beyond that, I would get it wouldn't flip flop. Like I would get every spring break, every fall break, every winter
You would
break,
look
or
every fall break, every spring break, the summer. Over Christmas, you still split time and you still decide how you're going to split your time. So usually somebody takes from right after school lets out. You see when their school lets out, when their school comes back in, what's the halfway mark? And that's usually going to be at some point between Christmas and New Year's, where you'd flip them.
And that's what we've done with
Then
Success.
you do a longer time because you're not getting those every other weekends because of the length of travel.
right. Yeah, I think that's what we currently have built in to flip flop, the first and second weeks of spring break, and I think we normally trade off on Christmas
Well,
Eve.
fall break and spring break are 1 week. So
Yeah.
usually if you're having to do the long distance, you just plan on having the spring break and the fall break
Okay.
because they're a week at a time. You still split the Christmas break because that's usually anywhere from 10 to 14 days,
Mhm.
depending
Okay.
on your school district.
So fall break and spring break would go to me every year, and then flip flop on Christmas 1 week and 1
Christmas,
week.
you would split down the middle.
Okay.
And
The school system that we're in, they don't have a designated fall break, but they are trying something new this year, to where it's gonna be a full week for Thanksgiving. But we don't know yet if they're going to keep that because they had to lengthen the school days to make that happen.
yeah,
And they decided that literally a week before school started. So there might not be a designated fall break moving forward. There hasn't been until this year when they started doing a full week for Thanksgiving.
right.
So we're hoping that they'll keep that. But we didn't even know that that was going to be a thing. And they, again, had to lengthen the school day by 15 minutes to do
And
that.
they call it different things, but at the end of the day, you've got a full week off. Usually it's around
This
Thanksgiving.
year, yeah. Previous years, they did Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and the kids went Monday and Tuesday still, and there was not a full week anywhere else. They just did a couple more 3-day weekends. They're in USD 305 here in Salina. So
Okay,
we're a little different. Everyone else around us has that fall break, so we're hoping they keep it.
right. The idea is to give them as much time as is appropriate with dad and still respect their school year, still respect what's going on. Now, this gets harder as the kids get into junior high and high school and they get into activities. And you
Yes.
have to start making some tough choices, but at the end of the day, parenting time trumps school activities, with the caveat and with the caution to you that if you keep your children from having the extracurricular activities, then you've got upset children. And your visitation time is not very happy when you've got upset kids if they're missing out on something very important at school.
Especially
So
with how
as your
competitive.
kids right now at 8 and 10, they don't have a whole lot of extracurriculars. But as they get into junior high and high school, you're going to run into that. Depending on what extracurriculars they choose to get involved in, whichever extracurriculars you choose to have them go into. So there has to be a lot of flexibility in this. And at the end of the day, you want to make sure you get the kids as much time with dad as you can and still respect, you don't want them in a car, 5 hours one way and then 5 hours back, and they spend 10 hours in the car over a 2-day weekend. That's brutal.
Yeah.
And that's brutal on everybody. So you don't want to do that. But if it's a, 3 hour or less, you can still do the every other weekend. But that's about the cutoff. And as they get a little older, you can do a little more. And then you look at, well, you could do some 3-day weekends or 3 days plus. And it just depends on how far away Mr. Elder ends up stationed. And you'll have to be reasonable with one another in setting this up with some basic guidelines. Okay. It sounds like you're pretty much in agreement as far as school year summer, other than you need to be giving that notice by March 1st. Journey needs to give John notice by March 1st what 2 weeks in the summer you want. And that way, if you both have something special planned during that period, you can discuss it and figure it out. If you can't figure it out, then parent A in odd years trump parent B in even years trump for the special occasion for the summer. But you still have to, it's not a deal where, well, if she and I schedule the same time, I get to trump that, so she gets no summer break. No, then she gets 2 other weeks. She just doesn't get the first 2 weeks she chose because you have something. She still gets 2 weeks somewhere. You still have to figure that out and plan it. So that's what I'm saying. You can't just plan, okay, I'm scheduling the kids for all 12 weeks of the summer. Well, you can't do that because she's going to get her 2 weeks. So it's just a matter of prioritizing what 2-week break that is. Okay. Now, because of the way you filed the court documents, it's Johnny Elder and Journey Elder. So Johnny is always going to be parent A when you put your documents together. And
Oh,
Journey, you're going to be parent B, so that we
okay.
don't have confusion. Okay, because he's the petitioner and you're the respondent.
Okay, perfect.
He's A, you're B, and write it accordingly.
Okay.
Okay. What other areas are there concerned?
As far as parenting time,
Yeah.
I think
Last
that
time,
about covers. I think that about covers parenting time. There's a couple other things that I put in here, and I was glancing through hers. I haven't had a time to fully review it, but it looks like she might have added some stuff as well. But there's other concerns, such as the concern that we covered last time of the overnight camps. So I wrote that in here until the age of 12. But then there's also a few other things that I wanted to talk about that I need the court's help with. I've talked to Journey about getting our daughter health care for her eating habits. There's food therapy that she really needs. I've talked to her doctor. They recommend it. Journey says that, if I want to put her in that, then I can do that. Well, I don't have the time to do that. That's the residential parent's job. So I need someone to order that she does what's being recommended that my kids really need as far as medical care. So I
I'm
drew
going
that.
to object on this, Your Honor, because I did put our daughter into food therapy 2 summers ago. Mr. Elder was invited to every one of those appointments, and he chose not to come, and he chose not to follow the recommendations that were put into place. So we've done food therapy, but as the speech language pathologist stated at that time, it does her no good if one parent follows the recommendations and the other parent counters that. And so everything that was sent home with her from those appointments were sent to his house when she went on visitations, and he had not followed them. When we completed the food therapy, our daughter has a diagnosis of ADHD and a diagnosis of autism and sensory processing disorder. And so the SLP, the speech language pathologist, made a recommendation for those evaluations to be completed based off of her findings during those services. We started the therapy. She went for one time, and we did some assessments during that. And those were what popped out in the assessments were those diagnoses. I have attempted to put our children into therapy multiple times. They had a therapist there in Hayes, and then we moved to Salina during COVID. I attempted to find another therapist. We went one time before she closed her practice when both of her parents unfortunately died of COVID. And so this was the third attempt to do counseling for the kids. I've attempted to set them up with counseling at school as well, so they have processing time. But because neither kids are acting out in school, they won't do it. Mr. Elder changed their insurance to TRICARE Prime. So we have to get a referral from the primary care manager in order to do any sort of appointments outside of seeing her. That
Okay.
also limits our.
You're getting into an area now where you're getting into some diagnosis and things of the kids.
Mhm.
And I understand we need to talk about that, but we don't need to be broadcasting that. Okay. So Sandy, are you with us?
I think she might have dropped off.
This hearing was set, Mr. John Elder, you had indicated you needed an emergency hearing, but I see no motion in the file.
I don't know. Our last hearing, you had said for a follow-up to email you, so that's how I thought I was supposed to follow up.
Yeah, you need to follow up by filing a motion with the court.
Okay.
Then we'll set the motion for hearing. What is your emergency?
I put it as urgent. I didn't state emergency. So basically, this weekend is supposed to be my weekend with the kids. We have it scheduled for my side of the family to have Christmas this Saturday. We scheduled that specifically because I'm supposed to have the kids this weekend. But Journey is saying now that this is part of her week of Christmas break, because I had the first week and then she's supposed to have the second week. So I haven't had the kids in 2 weekends now. This will be the second weekend. Christmas break started I had them from Friday, December 20th until Friday, December 27th, exactly 7 days. And then she had them from Friday, December 27th until today. So that's exactly 7 days. And then this weekend is supposed to be my weekend again for the rotating schedule. She apparently disagrees because there's a pop-up on the school's website stating that the school break is goes through the 6th. So that would be this weekend plus Monday. But the school calendar specifically says that the winter break goes through January 3rd, and that's it. And then there's the weekend, and then the 6th, that Monday, is a teacher in-service day. It has nothing to do with her week of Christmas break. So I had 7 days. She got her 7 days. Now she feels like my weekend is included in her week of Christmas break, and I'm telling her that's not true. So I guess we need the court to make a decision on that.
Ms. Lee,
Your Honor, I forwarded or I had responded to the Zoom information with all of the like the conversation between Mr. Elder and I, the school calendar, all of that information. Was that forwarded on to you?
I have an email with that information, yes.
Okay, perfectly. That's what I'll be referencing then. So our school calendar has always had Mondays off on winter break. It's just been part of winter break always, even if it's stated as a teacher in service. Mr. Elder did have the children starting 6 p.m. on Thursday evening, and our court order is currently until 6 p.m. on December 26th. Since it was a little bit of a longer on the second half of winter break, I asked if he'd like extra time. He'd originally asked for the entire weekend of last weekend. We had our family stuff on Sunday, so I said Saturday or Friday. He mentioned he wasn't able to meet at 6 p.m. on Friday, and I was not able to meet earlier with a transport. So we met Friday, so he had an extra day on there. And I sent everything in there to show, what that conversation looked like, the back and forth of negotiation, and then the instant, if we're not doing it my way, I'm going to escalate this. But I do not think that Mr. Elder should be able to just arbitrarily decide that winter break ends 4 days before it does.
Mr. Elder, where are you residing now?
I live in Wichita.
And Ms. Lee, where are you residing?
We live in Salina, Your Honor.
Okay, so you're only about 90 minutes apart,
Correct.
roughly. Okay. Well, this is a situation where you have an agreed order in place. And the agreed order divides your break on the 26th, first half, second half. It's not always going to be exact with the number of days, but the break is from when they get out of school till they go back to school. So your order has your date. Again, as I explained to both of you, the order is your safety net. If you can agree otherwise, agree otherwise. If you can afford each other some leniency, afford each other some leniency. If you can't agree, then you fall back on your order. And the order is pretty clear. It's the first half and the second half, and I think even your children will tell you that break is from when they get out till they go back. That's just the way break is. So,
Your Honor, I was under, oh, sorry.
technically, let me speak. So technically, Miss Lee is correct. From the order, and I'm looking at the order that was filed, the agreed order filed November 15th of 2024. And for Christmas break, yeah, I'm sorry, it's called referred to as winter break. There's a first half and a second half. Now, that being said, this one is unusual because there's a lot of weekends involved in this one.
Mhm.
Normally over a winter break, you'd have 2 weekends. This year, because of how it fell, there's 3. So it falls down to the 2 of you to work it out. If you can't work it out, then it falls back to the court order. Now, that being said, Miss Lee, you had submitted some documents to the court about some separate school activities going on, or some separate activities you had enrolled the children in.
Correct.
A
We have camp.
KCC camp. But that's on Thursday, today, and then on Monday. And it's my understanding what he's wanting to do is a family Christmas on Saturday,
Correct.
and that's not an accommodation you're willing to make?
We are due to get some pretty horrendous weather. Is the Christmas here in Salina by any chance? Is it at your sister's house, John?
Yep.
Okay, I would be fine with them going for Christmas at his sister's house on Saturday
In Salina, so that
in
they're not
Salina.
traveling in the storm on the highway.
Correct. We're supposed to get up to a foot of snow here in the Salina area
Now,
between Saturday and Sunday.
so Mr. Elder, when is the family get together at your sister's house?
I'll have to look at the exact time. I think it's right around noon on Saturday. I want to say noon, 1 o'clock, something like that.
Okay. And you're agreeable to that, Miss Lee?
Absolutely. I can just drop
Children
them off
being
at her house.
in Salina. And then communicate with each other as to return time, and obviously watch the weather. The roads start getting bad, get the kids in a safe place. And don't be driving the kids out on the highway in a bad storm. That's just basic common sense for parenting. Okay. With that agreement, anything else, Mr. Elder?
Yes. So another reason I wanted to bring this to the court is because, it would throw off all of our weekends from now until forever. So the way I have my weekends planned out is, on your calendar, you can just set it to where it just automatically updates. I have every other weekend. And so, if somebody says, hey, do you have the kids next September on this weekend, then I can look at my calendar and say yes or no, so I can plan ahead.
Well, but remember, those weekend visits are trumped by holiday visits.
Correct. So I just wanted clarification that if there is something from the holiday schedule that, okay, she gets that weekend now, but that does not throw off the every other weekend. That means she gets that weekend, she gets the following weekend, and I stay with that same every other weekend schedule.
When you say it doesn't throw off the weekend, if a weekend for her visitation falls on a holiday you're supposed to have the children, then the holiday schedule trumps the regular weekend visitation, and the holiday schedule controls. And then you go back to your normal schedule.
Correct.
Again, you have to work with each other as parents, but holidays trump regular weekends.
So, okay. Other than that, the way our parenting plan reads, it does not say just first half, second half. It specifically says winter break, first week, second week. So I was going off of the calendar, the school calendar that says, the first week and it goes until the 26th, 27th. You know, I had that first week, 7 days. And then the second week, she also gets 7 days, and the school calendar shows that it ends on the 3rd. So according to the way our parenting plan reads, I am correct.
It's not divided by weeks. The winter break is divided by first half and second half.
Okay,
It's divided by first half from when the kids get out of school until the 26th of December at 6 p.m. And then
that just wasn't clarified in the parenting plan or in mediation.
It ends when the kids go back to school. So this is just one of those fluke years where there's a longer second half than a first half. Next year, it may be the opposite, or it may be the same next year. And the first half may be longer next year than the second half because of when the kids get out of school. But out of school from the break is from when they get out till they go back in. And again, you have to cooperate with one another on your weekends to do what's right, do what's fair, and what's in the best interest of the children. Your order is your safety net if you can't cooperate and work it out. But your order clearly says the break is first half and second half. It doesn't go by weeks. It's just first half and second half. Okay. But sounds like you've resolved it. And you're going to have the kids at your sister's house for Christmas, and that'll be good. Okay. Anything else today?
I think that's it for that. Other than that, I did email the court back to request a short hearing from our previous mediation. There's one thing that we didn't agree on, and it's in the current order as temporarily ordered by you. We did not agree on Jordan and Stetson Smith being allowed to be alone with the kids. In mediation, you know, there was a lot of back and forth, and you know, they tried to convince me, and they had me for a second, but I told them I'm sorry, I can't agree to that. My instinct says no. These people have already been teaching the kids weird stuff, and according to Journey, she says, you know, it's not necessarily them teaching it to the kids, it's the kids asking questions. Well, you know, when I feel like when they're constantly exposed to that lifestyle, then they're gonna have questions. I feel like that's my job as a parent to protect them from that, and I don't agree with them being alone with these people.
Okay. And Mr. Elder, that is certainly a concern you can raise with the court, but how this works is, and this is for both of you because you're both representing yourself, if you have an issue you need to bring before the court, you file a motion with the court, and we notice it up and we have a hearing on it. Okay? So this was at least presented to me as, quote, an emergency regarding a Christmas over the weekend. So we got it put onto the calendar.
Okay.
Other issue is an on-standing issue. You need to file your motion so that Ms. Lee has notice of your motion and has time to prepare to respond to the motion. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. If you can't work it out, then you put it in front of the court. Otherwise, the two of you can work it out. If you can't, then file your motion, and that's for either one of you. File the motion with the court. It gets noticed up for hearing, and then we have the hearing on it. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. You're all set for this weekend, right? What time is Mr. Elder picking up the kids, or you're dropping off the kids, Miss Lee?
I can drop the kids off. And John, if you have to leave for Wichita early to make it back and the kids want to stay a bit longer, our plans were canceled this weekend. We were going to Topeka, and it's not going to happen. So if they want to stay a bit longer, that's fine. I can always go pick them back up.
They've got cousins, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah. And they'll want to spend time with their cousins.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, she says they have no plans this weekend. This is supposed to be my weekend. She's letting me have them on Saturday. I don't understand why I can't have the full weekend. You know, I'm sorry. She makes me fight for every
Well-
little bit of time I can get with them, and I'm going to fight.
Mr. Elder, okay. You are interpreting the orders differently than the court interprets the order. You're looking at it as that there's a week and there's a week and it's not divided. That's just first half and second half of the break. Again, this is something that you two need to cooperate with one another, but if push comes to shove, it falls back to the order. The order is first half and second half. So.
Yep.
And
Understood.
the holidays trump regular visitation. Now, sounds like you've got this Saturday figured out.
Okay. Can I just clarify when my next weekend will be? I do have training on the 10th and 11th, and she's saying that that's the next weekend she will let me have them. I'm going to be training, so I told her that I would like to stick with the current every other weekend schedule, which would be my next weekend would be the following weekend after that, which I think is the weekend of the 19th. So
we built that into the parenting plan already. So that way then his wife Amanda would have the children if he had military duties. So we've already addressed that. And unfortunately,
Is there any reason you can't swap out the weekend if he's going to be in training?
Unfortunately, I will be in Kansas City.
Okay. Does your agreement specifically lay out the weekends? You've been on a rotation basis, correct?
it says every other weekend, and I just want to keep the same rotation is all I'm asking.
So why would the rotation shift? If this would have been a normal weekend for Mr. Elder, but it got trumped by the holiday, then,
I didn't think he'd want to spend 3 weekends away.
well, yeah, it doesn't change. He just got trumped because of the holiday, and that's just the way the holidays fell this year. But it doesn't change your rotation. Your rotation would remain the same.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Then I'll figure things out on my end with the
again,
Kansas City.
again, if you can work it out, work it out. And with the rotation this year, you might want to swap it the weekend, next weekend for the following weekend. That's fine. You guys can agree and do that. You can swap out weekends. You could do whatever works for parenting these kids.
Mhm.
The order is your safety net. If you can't come to an agreement, then you fall back to your court order. Okay, but otherwise, you can do what works for you and the kids, keeping in mind the best interest of the children. The best interest is to have a good relationship with both of you.
Yes.
Okay? And then if you
Okay.
can't agree, you file a motion with the court and call and schedule a hearing. Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. Anything further today, Mr. Elder?
Negative, Your Honor.
Anything further today, Miss Lee?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you both. And again, work in the best interest of your children. Keep that relationship with each other and the children going. Okay? Okay, thank you both. And
Thank
we're
you.